It's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais with episode number 160 of the Yakking Show. This is a show to awaken you to new perspectives for the changing world we're living in. And it seems right now everything is changing very rapidly and a lot of worrying things. But this is a show, as I say, to open you to new perspectives. We want to bring you something positive, and we have another interesting guest today who will do exactly that. And this is a guest from a country we haven't interviewed anyone from before. But it's not my job to introduce guests because Kathleen does it so much better than I do. So before I ask her to introduce our guest and I welcome her, I'll give her a bit of a plug for the other hat she wears. Kathleen helps you if you have any IT problems. So if you need to recruit people or you've got particular problems you want experts to work on, get hold of Kathleen. Her contact details are in the description, both on the YouTube channel and in our podcast channel. Enough for me for today. So let's welcome Kathleen. How are you doing, Kathleen?
Oh, I'm doing great, Peter. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Good. Spring has arrived.
Oh my goodness. It's been a wonderful day here. It felt so good. So thank you all so very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you and we love reading your comments. So do please keep those coming. And as Peter said, we do have another special guest with us today. And I know I'm not going to pronounce his name correctly, but please forgive me. His name is Michal Stawicki. Is that right? Did I get it right, Michal?
That was better than most Americans do.
There we go.
To this show, and what a pleasure to have you on the show today. Michal, you are an author, you're a coach, and you are a business owner of Expand Beyond Yourself. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, for our audience, can you give us a little bit about your background and what led you to become a coach?
Well, I'm just an ordinary guy. I finished university, get a job in corporate world and worked in IT for several years. And then life just got empty, like day job, hamster wheel. And I didn't really know, like, what's the gist of it? Why do I live? I was purposeless, seriously. And because of that, when the book, The Slight Edge, landed in my lap, I read it and it made me think, and I decided, okay, I will try to change my life. I started pursuing personal development very seriously. That was 2012. And the rest is history. Now I'm working just quarter time in the corporate world, and I'm dreaming about quitting it altogether. I have small book advertising agency, 19 books on Amazon, and I'm a coach.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I don't, unless I missed it, because sometimes I'm getting old, I lose my train of attention. Kathleen, did you tell our audience where Michal is from?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me, Peter. And, it slipped my mind as well. And Michal is from Poland, not very far from Warsaw. Is that correct, Michal?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so good. I've got to ask you, Michal, what brought you to focus on habits? Because when I read your website, you talk about habits a lot. And you're going to tell our audience more about habits, but why did you focus on habits in particular?
Well, the Slight Edge is based around the two principles from Jim Rohn. One is success is a few simple disciplines repeated over time. And the other, failure, is a few small errors in judgment repeated over time. So it comes down to habits. And Jeff Olson, the author of The Slight Edge, explained it. Well, the success is guaranteed as long as you keep going. And I thought, before reading the book, my outlook on success was, it's just not possible for me. Well, success in my mind was golden medal at the Olympics or having multi-million-dollar business. But a few simple disciplines repeated over time, I was capable of that. That's why I was willing to give myself a chance. And this is exactly what Jeff recommends in his book too. Well, find out some goals, but then break those goals into daily disciplines, habits, in other words. So like I shyly tried this approach at the beginning, and then when I got confirmation that it works, like I went all in, and I'm crazy about habits.
Oh,
Aha.
so
Okay, and of course you're probably going to tell us more, but for our audience, good habits on the one side, but you can very easily let bad habits on the other side hold you back, right? So yeah, sorry, Kathleen, I jumped ahead of you there. You
no,
go.
that's quite all right. I just want to go back to something you said at the very beginning about your background and when you were working in the corporate world and you felt that you didn't have a sense of purpose, that you were pretty much on a hamster wheel. And there's a lot of people in our audience right now probably feeling exactly like that. And that this book that you read sort of put you on a path to finding that purpose. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit more? Because for those, and I will include myself in that, because I have come, and Peter as well, we both worked for years in the corporate world and felt, well, I'm speaking for myself, I felt the same way, that there was something missing, that there had to be more than getting up in the morning, going to do a job, going home, getting up the next morning and repeating it all over again. So how did, can you give us a little bit of more context on how you figured things out for yourself?
So from the high level, I'm a Christian, and like I intellectually got this idea that, well, all of us have individual purpose, but I just couldn't see myself in that picture. But I had this, well, this what wiser than me say, so that should be true. Something is off there. I would say it was up to two things. First of all, like reading the slide edge gave me the permission for changing anything, just looking for the purpose, because before that I was just, stuck in helplessness and like, the situation when this self-talk goes over and over and over in your head. It's not possible, you are not worth it, and so on and so on. I just couldn't let me go out of that circle, but like reading the site edge gave me this permission. Okay, try something new. So that was the step number 0. And then when I gave myself permission and I immersed myself in personal development, well, an idea of your own strengths, of your own mission and purpose is quite common in this space. I reread the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and there is a section about personal mission statement. Yeah, so try to write your own constitution.
Right.
So it took me like over a month, and it wasn't like one moment of enlightenment and clarity and I knew, but it was a process, and asking myself questions and going through some mental exercises. Like the most powerful one was definitely imagining my own funeral and what would people say at it, what I would like for them to say about me. Yeah, and that was very powerful experience. So I explored. It was like in those less than 2 months, I spent more on reflecting upon myself, my strengths, my skills, than I did like 15 years prior to that. And I would say that was the game changer. Yeah. And most of people who are stuck, they don't really look for like, I didn't believe I can change. I didn't believe I can get something more and better from my life. I needed some external impulse to start.
And that's probably attributed to the self-talk that people have, that I can't do this. I only know this, I don't know that. And these are probably what you would say is another habit, right? Which brings me to my next question, possibly. How do you guide people through changing their habits, which is changing their mindset too? Would you agree?
Yes and no. Like now the research on habits is much more broader than it was like 2 decades ago. And we know what it is. So it is basically some neural loop in our brain. Like it may be tracked down to the downward physical level. Yeah. Oh, those circuits in your brain, this is this habit because you programmed yourself, or the world programmed you, whatever. We are conscious beings, so we can actually program ourselves. That's one thing. And then if we recognize the past program, we can step in between the trigger and the routine of the habit and try to change it. It's not easy, especially if you either don't admit or you just don't realize. Like habits are on the subconscious level. It's really hard to put your finger on without external help.
Right.
But that, so we can program ourselves and reprogram ourselves, and it's amazing how little things make a big difference. Like you don't need to start reading for an hour a day. You can just start from one page and make this a habit. So much easier.
I want to pick up on something there from what you're saying. Kathleen, sorry.
Sneaks.
Oops,
we have a little bit of a hiccup there.
We have an internet connection problem.
Here we go. I think you're back.
You're back. So just picking up on that one, I found in my personal life that if I can start a new or a better physical habit, there's a spin-off for a more academic or cerebral habit. And I'll give you a really good example that I wanted to walk the Camino de Santiago, and I was reasonably fit, but I knew I had to put a lot of mileage in. So I made it a habit to get up at, I think it was 5:30 every morning and walk every morning. Didn't matter if it was raining, snowing, whatever, I walked. And I walked and I got fit. And that discipline spun off because I started work in my office a little bit earlier. I didn't waste as much time on waste of time stuff. And I was better about writing a list of what I needed to do that day. And I really attribute that to the discipline of doing a physical thing that was not hard, not easy. Am I on the right track there? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, in The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg described the research because some scientists try to discover, okay, what's that the factor that changed people's life. Like they tracked people who changed their life. Of course, they had in mind this picture that, okay, some traumatic event or huge things are changing your life, like you are getting a new job or you are losing someone. But they found that most of the time it was small habit, which started the avalanche, and they tracked down. Charles told about two of those habits. They call them keystone habits, that if you develop this one, then you are so more likely to develop more good habits. So one of it is physical activity, any kind of it, like walking, exactly. And the other is healthy eating. Like if you start from one or the other, you can change your life totally.
No, I agree 100%. Yeah, thank you on that one. So for those of our audience who haven't read the book that you're talking about, The Slight Edge, you've got a very good chart on your website from The Slight Edge. So would you like to tell our audience a little bit more about that chart?
Do you mean the whole picture or the ones where I track my journey on the chart?
I was talking particularly the blue arrow and the red arrow on the page where you're talking about the slight edge, and sort of, I don't want to steal your thunder. Talk about anything in that area.
Yeah, so it's around those two principles of Jim Rohn. So success is a few simple disciplines, and they compound. That's why if you do those things daily, and now I can confidently tell you that it's true. I did small things consistently, and they expanded like disproportionately. Like I'm doing something for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or half an hour, like writing, and it changed my life. Like right now, as a coach and business owner on my own, I earn more than double my day job salary in the
Well
IT.
done.
Come on.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Because I did those small things. So that's one thing. They compound. Examples, like I'm like almost 10 years into this journey, and I'm tracking my writing. I wrote over almost 3 million words, published 19 books. I have like, I think, thousands of articles over the internet, because I've been writing every single day for weeks, months, and days. So it compounded into this massive amount of writing. That's one thing, but then it's everything what comes with that. Like I can reach out to podcast hosts like you, and you are interested because, okay, this guy wrote a lot of books, so it's something interesting. Or like I was found by Bellevue University. They found my book. They asked me to do a webinar for them about creating personal mission statement. And many other things happened because, well, my books are out there, my articles are out there, and I've just dedicated like half an hour a day consistently over the time, and it compounded.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Very good.
And going back to the chart, there is also red arrow, which is down right arrow, sorry. And well, it's those compounded small errors. If you eat a donut every day, well, it will compound in your body, and you will gain some pounds, and your health will not be as great, and you be less likely to move around, and maybe get into this sedentary lifestyle, and then lose just the zeal for life. And it compounds. Small things like one donut a day compounds into a real disaster.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Back to you, Kathleen.
So what do you say? Why do you say that humans are wired for consistency?
I was convinced about this because of my experience, but then I read the book The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, if I don't butcher his name, and he also instanced some research about human brain. And we know that, okay, whatever we repeat, we create the neural paths in our brains. So practice create those neural pathways, and we are better at what we are doing. What we discovered, like what's unique for human beings, is that if you create this pathway and it's active enough, strong enough, then we have a special substance called myelin, which encompasses this neural path. And because of that, neural impulses are going faster through this path, and they are stronger. So we are even better. We excellent. The saying practice makes master is true. That's like describing the biology of a human brain.
Right. That makes sense, of course.
Yeah,
Practice
makes a lot of
perfect,
sense.
right? Yes.
Yeah. And tied in with consistency is comfort. People will go along a path that is comfortable for them, right? Even
That's
though
true.
even when part of their being is aware that it might not be the best path for them, because it's comfortable, familiar, they'll continue it. You were talking about your books. I thought I read on your website 14, and but you've actually written 19. And for me, I've written one book. So I take my hat off to you. Congratulations. But what's interesting to me is the first book you published, I think most of them were published in English, which is not your first language, right? So
Right.
that must have been a huge undertaking to do that.
Well, certainly it would have been easier to write in Polish, but we still don't have anything similar to self-publishing revolution in Poland. So
Really?
yeah, so I was like, okay, but I know English and I know that there is market for personal development in the US. So I decided to start in English, and to say the truth, still I haven't wrote a book in Polish.
Is that right? Is that right? Wow. So I've got to ask you, follow on from that. My understanding is that most people in Poland will speak English, certainly the younger people. So is English taught in all your schools?
Yes, it's in from the grammar schools, and I have 3 kids. All of them speaks English, like at least at the communicative level. However, it wasn't the credit of the school, more of the online world. They have friends all over the world, or online games and so on. But I would also say that's like an interesting tidbit. It helped my career to write in English, because I had to be more diligent. Like my books go over 4 or 5 phases of proofreading and editing before I publish something. So the quality is better than just winging it.
Yes, of course. So I started off, and then I got sidetracked about the English bit. But tell our audience a little bit more about your books. You've got a lot of them. So they're obviously mainly on self-development and helping people discover what they need to be and expand beyond yourself, obviously. So tell our audience a little more about some of your books.
Okay, so I'm writing from my personal experience. When I write about personal development, I have a few positions which are not strict personal development, like perseverance stories, which I wrote with co-author. So those are just stories we found in the history of humankind, very inspiring, very short. But the personal development books I wrote from my own experience. Like my first book was a personal mission statement, the roadmap to happiness, and I just documented what I've done to create my own personal mission statement. Because, well, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there are some guidelines, but they are far from being precise, and a lot of people just don't feel confident enough to start with that information. So I created like a textbook. I have another textbook on speed reading. Funny you mentioned self-talk, Kathleen, because I have a book which is titled Power Up Your Self-Talk. Habits of your self-talk, how to recognize them, how to break them, how to change them. I have a book about persistence, the art of persistence, because my friends nicknamed me Mr. Consistency. And I was repeatedly asked by my friends, okay, how do you do that you are so consistent? So that's how I wrote that book. And the other is Trickle-Down Mindset, which is about personal philosophy, another idea of Jim Rohn, which is very close to my heart. And speaking of changing yourself, well, if you don't change your mindset, it's really hard to change your life. But it is as simple as, feeding your mind with new information and being aware what you are saying to yourself. Because if you just
then Kathleen wanted to ask you something else.
Yes, I just wanted to, because you mentioned it in one of your books about how to identify a habit and how to break it. And just for our audience sake, and give us a little bit of a teaser, perhaps, how would somebody, what would be one of the first steps somebody would take in order to break a habit?
Habit is like this loop, this construction in our brain, and it starts with a trigger. Then there is a routine, and at the end there is something science called reward. I think it's not very kosher. They called it reward because they experimented on rats and they were given, a piece of chocolate.
Kathleen, did you want anything else?
No, you just froze up there, Michal, about breaking a habit.
Breaking habits.
We're running low on time, so just give us a
tidbit.
A tidbit about how to maybe go about breaking a habit. It's you mentioned about the neurons in the brain and how to. It's about a trigger and identifying that trigger.
So, there are two main ways to break your bad habit. One is to reprogram what you are doing. So you going the same road to your job, and there is a pantry shop, so you buy a donut. Okay, you realize that. So then instead of going into the pantry shop, you do something else. That's the different routine. And you're like reprogramming this route in your brain, but much easier and faster. And that's like a hack. It's just realizing what the trigger is. So in that case, is this route next to that pantry shop. If you change your route, the trigger will disappear. So the habit will not appear. And tadam, this is how I cured myself from playing computer games in 2 weeks. I just found what's my trigger, avoided it, deleted the game from my computer. So then if I wanted to play, I even felt the impulse. Well, it was so much harder to start it because the trigger didn't automatically started the routine.
Okay, good one. I like the one about the donut shop. Yeah, don't drive past the pastry shop. That's a good one. Well, here's one I ask all successful people, and from what you told us, you're certainly in that category of being highly successful. So in your experience, is there a single habit or characteristic or mindset that separates the people who are successful? And I don't just mean making a lot of money. I mean having a balanced life and really having a purpose in life, to those that struggle all their lives. Is there one thing, a key?
Yeah, I think it's what we talked a bit about. It's just it's this growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And I think your guest a few episodes ago, Jim, told exactly the same. If you block yourself from achieving success, well, of course you cannot reach it. So fixed mindset is just this like inability which is in you, and you cannot do anything. You can't do nothing, really, nothing in the end, because you will talk yourself out of every possible way to succeed. But if you have the growth mindset, then whatever happens, you feel like, okay, I will learn from that. It happens for a reason, and that enables you to keep doing. And if you keep doing, you will eventually succeed. That's what the slight edge is about.
Yeah, very good answer. Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Kathleen. Well, it looks like we are out of time, but we first need to find out, how do people contact you?
It's very easy for me, because whoever types my name in Google will find me. Being a Polish in the English word is easy, so find me on Quora, Amazon, Medium, Twitter, my name and this platform, and tadam, I am. And my blog is expandbeyondyourself.com.
And I've got to ask, can people get your books directly from your website, your blog?
Nope, they are available on the various online
On so Amazon and all those. Okay.
stores, so Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and so on.
Okay.
Books page, but it actually go there, then you need to pick a store when you do your shopping.
That's great. We will put all that in the description. So thank you very much. It's been really interesting talking to you.
Yes, it has been. Thank you so much for being on our show. And thank you all for tuning in. And once again, we love reading those comments. So please keep those coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.